Tonight, the latest in the deadly global pandemic, as reports show confirmed COVID-19 cases in the U.S. surpassing 200,000.
If you go on a ventilator, there's roughly only a 20% chance that you will come off the ventilator.
Staggering numbers out of New York State, Governor Andrew Cuomo saying 16,000 New Yorkers could die and nearly 100,000 Americans. His message for the rest of the country as New York's confirmed cases soar. Plus, news from the Hill. We spoke to Vice Chancellor Mike Haynie about the university's effort to help students during the outbreak.
This is one of those situations where the history of this university, history of this community will long remember the decisions that we make.
Find out what resources are available and how SU is dealing with students who violate social distancing rules. Plus, the deciding factor for the class of 2020 is graduation. All that and more coming up. SU has manufactured and donated 100 face shields to Loretto Health and Rehabilitation Center. Good evening, I'm Liam Crowley. In an email sent to students, faculty, and staff, Chancellor Kent Severud praises the creativity and resilience of members of the campus community. He also names some of the many virtual resources available to students. Students can stay connected with their peers at Syracuse using a new virtual events section in the university's events calendar. Severud also says that several SU units are offering virtual services, including career services, international student services, cultural centers, and more. The university is extending the deadline to select pass-fail for classes. You now have until next Friday, April 10th, to let your advisor know. This comes on top of the original extension of April 3rd. According to this email sent to students earlier today, many people have asked for the deadline to be extended even further than the 10th. However, the university says it cannot do so as it would delay reporting grades and therefore delay the certification of degrees for graduating seniors. Vice Chancellor Michael J. Haynie has been in charge of Syracuse University's COVID-19 response since day one. Citrus TV's Erin Lyons spoke with the Vice Chancellor today. He spoke about how this time is a historic moment in the university's 150 years.
Process for students to report to the university if they do catch COVID-19?
It's important to understand the university itself does not have the legal authority to actually require the student report to us. And that is the same thing that's true of an employee. So we do work closely with and in a sense rely on the county health department to notify us if there is an SU connected person that tested positive, and if there is then a risk of potential exposure to other SU connected people as a consequence. If there's not a risk of exposure, I would argue it's even a violation of that student's privacy. You know, one of the things that we're really focused on is how do we build a positive, supportive student experience now that we've made this transition to a virtual world. And so many of the Barnes Center, if not all of the Barnes Center counseling resources, mental health resources, et cetera, have transitioned to that virtual world.
Are many students taking advantage of those services that are being offered online?
Matter of fact, last I heard, the actual case count in terms of counseling appointments, et cetera, was actually up from our on-campus, our residential experience.
The university basically asked students to please start observing these social distancing rules and that there might be consequences in the future if students start to or continue ignoring these rules.
But I mentioned to a colleague in student affairs, listen, I want names and I want their phone numbers, I want their parents' phone numbers. You know, it's one thing to say you're willing to take a risk. Are you willing to put someone else's family at risk? And the answer to that should be every single time, no. I really think that this is one of those situations where the history of this university, history of this community will long remember the decisions that we make in the context of this response. For me, that's the lens that I'm applying to these decisions.
Throughout the past month, thousands of SU students have had to pack their bags to go back home. For some, this meant the end of their semester abroad and a rush to get back to the United States as President Trump imposed new travel restrictions. Our London correspondent Rob Flaks, who is now safely back home here in the States, joins us with the status of SU London and what resources are still available to students from across the pond. Rob?
That's right. I was able to talk to two different SU London administrators about the process that 279 students in 10 different countries had to go through in order to get home successfully.
We had a massive number of staff here in London as well as in Syracuse abroad at the home campus, working on tracking all of those students, helping them rebook, and confirming with all of them that they have gotten safely home. And we're very happy to say that we've heard from all 279 and everybody's home safe.
And while those students are no longer on the London campus, they will still have access to resources, including mental health guidance. Lisa Watkins says that to maintain mental health, you need a good routine.
Good routine means getting up early, showering, demarcating your diary, eating healthy, eating regularly, exercise, talking to your family, expressing any difficulties.
And for the SU London program going forward, they're focusing on getting those refunds for housing as much as they can for those continuing students and giving special accommodations to those who are planning on studying there in fall of 2020.
We are still actively in London working really hard to recover as much of the costs as possible. So, trips that weren't able to happen, Oyster cards, that now aren't being used for an entire month and a half, all of that kind of thing. We're actively working with vendors trying to get that back, and as per their policy, we will return to students all of the recoverable expenses. Right now, we have an assurance plan in place for every student who has applied to come abroad in fall, so that they have a quite long period of time until the semester starts to be able to pull out and get a full refund, including their application fee.
From Long Island, New York, I'm Rob Flaks, Citrus TV News.
Thanks, Rob. Many SU organizations have had to change their plans due to the pandemic. Programming Board University Union announced earlier today that all in-person events are canceled for the rest of the semester. This includes the highly anticipated annual Block Party and Mayfest. The organization is considering other alternatives for the campus community, such as digital events. And another organization adapting to the new circumstances is the Student Association. SA will still be holding their election this month and plans to digitally send students all the information they need to vote properly. CitrusTV reporter Carmella Boykin spoke with SA candidates Sadia Ahmed and Yanen Wang about their platform and how they plan to keep up their campaign.
So I'm joined by Sadia Ahmed and Yanen Wang, who are running for President and Vice President of Student Association. So thank you both for joining me.
Hi. Thank you for having us.
So running for Student Association President and Vice President right now, I'm sure is really challenging, especially with everyone social distancing and being in quarantine and everything. So how do you guys plan to reach out to the Syracuse University community?
Well, I definitely think we have to adapt to the situation, and so everything is through social media, emails, just text messages, whatever we can utilize.
Like Sadia said, everything is social media based, so it's challenging to get the word out, but at the same time, it's sort of relatively easier because it's all on your phone and your laptop.
And in terms of the word and spreading around your message, what are the platforms that you guys are running on?
Our first platform is representation, and we're advocating to prioritize a diverse selection of staff on campus, especially in upper administration.
And our second platform is accountability, and so this honestly encompasses various levels of the university, so including Student Association, DPS, the university administration. We just want more transparency.
Okay, and our third platform is sustainability, and we want to decrease food waste in campus dining halls and increase labeling for waste and recycling.
Our last platform, bear with me, this is a big one. So we kind of broke it down between economic, physical, mental, and academic.
And is there anything else that you think is important that Syracuse University voters need to know going forward?
Advocacy, when it is done right, is going that extra mile to sort of adjust to the growing needs and concerns of the student body, whatever it might be. And so that's what we are going to do. And when advocacy is done correctly, there is always going to be something somewhere to improve, and we're going to do that.
That was Carmella Boykin for Citrus TV News. Thanks, Carmella. You can vote for your choice of SA President, Vice President, and Comptroller between April 13th and 17th on MySlice. Citrus TV will also be airing a virtual debate with the candidates on April 7th. We'll have more information as that date comes closer. And today is U.S. Census Day, an event that happens only once every 10 years. Syracuse University sent out an email this morning to students encouraging them to participate. The email says that students who reside off campus for the spring semester should use their off-campus address when responding to the census. Students who lived on campus, including those residing in on-campus apartments, are counted administratively and do not need to fill out the census. You can fill out the census online at uscensus.gov. Syracuse Mayor Ben Walsh spoke today at the Onondaga County Coronavirus Update press conference about the importance of the census. He notes that because population count directly impacts federal funding, getting an accurate count is critical for ensuring the area is assisted in situations like this pandemic.
The current COVID-19 pandemic literally gives us a life and death example of how important the census is.
Onondaga County Executive Ryan McMahon says that there have been 277 positive cases in the county. This is an increase of 28 new cases from yesterday. Since testing began, 67 people have recovered and ended their time in isolation. 25% of all positive cases are individuals under the age of 30. McMahon is continuing to urge those in Syracuse to follow social distancing guidelines.
Many of these new cases, as the health department has started their investigation, they're seeing some trends that these are more not 20 or 30 people hanging out, but maybe 5 to 10 people in a gathering, and that's really something that needs to be taken seriously. We have to get to a spot where this curve flattens. How we do that is social distance.
The mayor says that Syracuse police have responded to calls about businesses and individuals violating guidelines. So far, SPD have only given warnings to those individuals.
We have to get to a spot where this curve flattens. How we do that is social distance, identify those who are sick, identify those who are at risk.
Looking now at New York State, grim numbers to report. According to a model from the Gates Foundation, around 16,000 New Yorkers could lose their lives as the pandemic continues. The state continues to have the highest number of confirmed cases in the United States at 83,712. Governor Cuomo says that hospitals across the state, including in upstate New York, are coming together to help in the battle against the coronavirus.
We are working with all the hospitals in the state to do something they have never done before, which is to act as one, to cooperate, to share supplies, share staff, support one another, shift patients among hospitals.
Albany Medical says that it has received 14 patients from downstate. According to the Albany Times Union, confirmed and suspected coronavirus patients were transferred from sites in Queens. Cuomo broke down the numbers that New York is facing.
Total numbers, 83,000 tested positive, 12,000 people currently hospitalized. That's up 1,200 people, 3,000 people in ICU, 6,000 patients discharged.
The next highest state is New Jersey, with 18,696 cases. Cuomo states that despite the highest numbers coming from New York, all states need to be concerned about the virus. The same Gates Foundation model predicts about 93,000 deaths across the country from the coronavirus.
What that does say to the rest of the nation is this is not just New York. 16,000 deaths in New York. That means you're going to have tens of thousands of deaths outside of New York.
Other models Cuomo discussed predict the peak of COVID beds and ventilator usage in New York to be the end of April. To further social distancing measures, Cuomo also announced that all New York City playgrounds will be closing.
So use the open space in a park, walk around, get some sun, great. No density, no basketball games, no close contact, no violation of social distancing.
Now, we'd like to end with some of the good news from today. Governor Cuomo also announced that New York-based company Regeneron is creating 500,000 free test kits for the state. In addition to that, tech company Corning has donated 100,000 tubes to New York and has sold another 500,000 at a reduced cost. Plus, bringing it even closer to home, one local Hollywood company is now making face masks to help medical professionals. According to The Hollywood Reporter, members of Syracuse-based American High and Syracuse Studio have partnered up in the effort, using the Greater Syracuse soundstage as their headquarters. By the end of the week, the team hopes to deliver nearly 5,000 masks. And that's all the time we have on today's Citrus TV update. We'll be back with the latest on Friday, but for now, make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Citrus TV News. I'm Liam Crowley, anchoring from my home in Braintree, Massachusetts. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon.